Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Nitty Gritty Cafe. If you're listening to us on Instagram and on YouTube, our channel is called Learn Together. So make sure you follow us and subscribe. Today, we'll be talking about what are the responsibilities of a good wife. 2 days ago, we talked about what are the responsibilities of a great husband. So we are going to jump into this. As you see the image on the screen, it looks like a lady is there with, many arms pouring out, and she has a lot of things going on there. So, do we have to be in every place at all times in order to be a good wife? So, we are going to take this, of course, from a biblical perspective. And so, we will add in a few of my opinions in there and a few experiences. But let's get into this quickly. This is your 10-minute look at what makes a good wife. How do you know if you're a good wife? So last time we looked at the top four needs of the woman, because of course the husband, your job is to make sure that the needs of your wife is being met. And women or wives, your top job is to make sure that the needs of your husband are being met. So we will see that these are in the opposite direction for both of us. So for a man, the number one need is sexual intimacy. So, women are usually saying, why does he always need sex? Why does he want this? Well, it's a need that he has. And sure enough, depending on testosterone and hormones, men do have hormones too, then, this might be a little different, but sexual need intimacy is one of their needs. And so that is why usually that is a conversation that women are always wanting to have. Why? So we have to make sure that we're fulfilling his needs. So sexual intimacy is one of his top needs. Unfortunately for women, that's down at number four. And we need to have number one, two, and three, which is security, meaningful conversation, and emotional affection in order to feel in the mood for sexual intimacy. So it's a balancing act, and we both have to try to make sure we are fulfilling the needs of each other so that we can meet each other on a almost level playing field, or as close to level as we can get. So number two for a man is emotional affection, which surprises many people, which just means that, it's those, touches that are not sexual, attention that is not sexual. Hey, babe, how are you today? You look very handsome in your suit. You know, it's the affection, the hugs, the kisses that are not leading to sex. So he also needs to have this. Number three is meaningful conversation. So as you can see, meaningful conversation for women is at number two, but for a man, it's at number three. So they're kind of in the opposite directions. And so he does need to have a conversation, but I will say from being married almost 19 years, that meaningful conversation sometimes for a guy will come later on. So he needs to come home, relax, decompress from work, and then he might be ready for conversation. While we come home from work as women or wives and we are ready to talk, we want to talk about everything that happened. So we kind of have to find that balance. You should know each other, know when the time is right, and then do that. And then security, which is number one for us women, is number four for the guy. So I've had many women say, why is it that he, maybe switches jobs a little more regularly than we would like? Security for a guy looks a little bit different. He does need the emotional security, but not probably as much as the woman when it comes to, we need to know you're with us all the time. We need to know that, especially physical security, that for a woman, that's very important because a guy is usually a little stronger. He doesn't think about the same things that we think about. So the security issue is more on the emotional side to know that, what, you have my back. You're my woman. You're my woman. You're in my corner and you have my back. So that security needs to be there. He needs to know he can come to you if something goes wrong somewhere else. You have his back. So you will be in his corner. So I say you need to be his cheerleader. And that's a part of our job as a good wife. All right, so what does that look like in real life? So how do we fulfill these needs? So from a biblical perspective, the woman's role, number one, is to be a helper to her husband. while all of us are called to be helpers to others, the Bible specifically emphasizes this responsibility for the woman. And it said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helper, helpmate." Some people say that, or some versions say that is fit for him. And so that does not mean that you become a doormat. It doesn't mean that you don't have any opinions. It doesn't mean that you don't get to do other things. It means that you help him to bring to pass the goals that you have worked on. I love listening to Pastor Miles Monroe, and he says, we're like incubators. Our husband tells us what it is they want, and we're the reminder to say, hey, this is what you said, and we're pushing you along to help you to achieve those goals so we can celebrate together. Number two, and I'm going to say this is one of the biggest ones that men complain about, it's the respect. Respect. So in the Bible, women are called to respect their husbands. It's funny because it says the man should love his wife as Christ loved the church, but the wives are called to respect. What does respect mean? Is it, what you want? No. So it's the opposite. Men should be saying, we want the respect. Let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. It means that you hold him in high regard. Your husband to think that you have the greatest opinion of him and his ideas and opinion. Respect. So when you go to work, because you respect the boss, you show up on time. Because you respect the boss, you're not swearing in front of the boss. So the same should apply to your marriage. Because you respect your husband and hold him in high regard, you won't do certain things. So I won't yell at my husband in front of other people because I hold him in high regard. And I want him to know that I respect him. I mean, I'm not a yeller usually, so, but because I respect him, I try not to say bad things about him behind his back or to our friends. Um, so it's this is very important to a guy. So I don't know if I can impress on it enough here, but maybe we should do one just about respect. But this is very high on the need of a man. The wives, we have a responsibility to respect our husband. We might not always agree, and we won't, but we still need to respect. Be trustworthy, which for me is tied up in the respect. If I respect my husband, then I'm going to make sure whatever he tells me, I'm keeping to myself, and that he can trust me with what he has said or what he's going to do. So Proverbs 31 talks about that her husband trusts in her. Make sure that you are trustworthy, because if you lose that trust, then it's sometimes really hard to get back. You have to work really hard. It might take counseling. So make sure that you are keeping the trust that your husband has in you. And number four, I know a lot of people talk about submitting and they hate it. They think it's a bad word. Submit does not mean that you lie down and once again, you're a doormat and your husband can walk all over you. It means that your husband has submitted himself to God and he's leading the household in the way that he should be leading, and therefore you can submit to his leadership because he's already submitted to God. And if he's submitted to God, he will be treating you well, the way that you should be. He'll be loving you like Christ loves the church. So you should have no problem submitting in that instance. So men, you have to keep your word. You have to do what you say you're going to do. Treat your wife well, and then your wife won't have any problem submitting. Women, if you have been alone for a long time or been in, a household where there was not a man's leadership, sometimes it can be hard for you to submit to the leadership of your husband. So this has to be something that we're working on every day. And it can be tough. I'm not going to lie. It can be tough some days, but we can do it. You submit to the leadership of your husband as to the Lord, as long as he's submitted to the Lord and he is doing the things that he should be doing as a husband. He's providing that security, good conversation, leading the household well, leading you in prayer, etc., and just in worship and in a relationship with God. Then this is something that we need to work on, is submitting and making sure that your husband doesn't feel like you submit to everybody else. And can I speak at this from a Christian perspective? You can't just submit to the pastor. You're supposed to submit to your husband. Um, that your husband is the leader of your household, and that's who you should be submitting to. So make sure that you are doing that. All right, we'll work on that one. We'll talk a little more about that another time because I'm trying to keep this 10 minutes or less. So, once again, as a wife, how do you know you're providing what is necessary for your household? Are you providing comfort? Are you teaching with the children at home? Are you the one that's telling and ensuring that they know what's right from wrong? And your husband will also lead with that, but this is one of the jobs that usually comes with being a wife. Are you nurturing? Are you the one that is there, making sure that the children are okay? I mean, sometimes we have a reversal of roles and you can, but the main duty of the wife is to provide comfort, teach, nurture, and that means that you're also looking at the needs of your husband. So I'm just going to remind you that we all have the same needs, but they might be in a different direction. It might be at a different end of the spectrum, but we still have the same needs. Our job or responsibilities as a great wife, ladies, is to make sure we know our husband. Know that look on his face. I said that for the men, so I'm going to say it for the women. Know that look on his face when he comes home and he's just like the burden of the world is on his shoulders. You're there to be his cheerleader. You are cheering him on. You are saying you can do it. You're the one who's encouraging him because you should know him better than anybody else knows him. And let's continue. Let's have some great marriages. We can do this. God told us we can, so of course we can. Have a fantastic day, everyone.